It's real hot. Every once in a while, you just gotta go like a, just when people aren't around you. Okay, ready? Hey.
Hey. Hey.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey. We wanted to record a quick video that's a bit different compared to the other videos we've been posting, which are more vlog style, I guess. Wanted to mostly update everyone on the COVID-19 / coronavirus situation over here in Vietnam and how that has been impacting our trip from before we left, and at the moment we're still on our trip right now. First thing we can talk about is kind of some concerns from family members and friends before we left. When the coronavirus news first started hitting at the beginning of this year, it definitely was something that we thought about, but in our minds, in my mind, I was thinking it was going to blow over by the time that we left for our trip, which was on March 1st. And I was thinking, like, it's going to be totally fine. By March 1st, it'll be okay.
And at the time, it was definitely like, it was more so a China thing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where it was. And it was all really, not even just all of China, but a lot of it was just in Wuhan, too. Like,
yeah.
The epicenter of all of it.
That was always our response whenever anyone was like, are you sure you still want to go? And we were like, well, we're not going to China. So it wasn't a concern of ours one bit. And we decided to still go on the trip, of course, because we're here right now, despite a lot of the concern that we had from our family members. But we just assured them that, of course, if we felt like we were in an unsafe situation, we could always just book a flight home. It was not going to be a big deal for us to do that. Obviously, we understand their concern and they want the best for us and want us to be close to them and safe. And we talked about it a bit this morning that it's debatable whether it's even safer in the U.S. compared to over here in Vietnam.
And I think it was tough too, especially before we came over here. All the planning and all the things that we did beforehand. I left my job. I trained up my replacement coming into it. There is no going back at that point.
And at the time, the state of Vietnam, basically the day before we left, there were 16 people who were tested positive for coronavirus. All 16 of them were cured, no deaths. And by the time that we got here, it was about 25 plus days of no new cases.
Yeah, there was a lot of warnings from our parents too. Their friends that are in the area or the newspapers that they're reading kind of telling us about the situations and that things are fully shut down, which I'm not sure if how much of that was really, really going on. From my sources that I was kind of reading in the area, younger people, what they were reporting was it sounded like it was still pretty business as usual, and we weren't as concerned because the main points that it was happening was China, and then I think later on was South Korea too, and they closed down the borders to both of those. So we're like, okay, it should be pretty safe, and the 16 people that they did kind of find were all connected to those countries, and they were all kind of isolated and quarantined on their own, and there wasn't any rapid growth at that point. So
yeah,
felt pretty comfortable coming over here. I did a ton of research going into the trip, probably the 2 or 3 weeks going into the trip. I felt like I was working during the daytime, and then once I got home from work, the time we should have been spending planning for the trip, I was doing all this research and trying to read what was going on so we could kind of help ease the mind of our parents.
The day before we left, even we're like, should we still go? Still calling the airlines and trying to figure out if it made sense for us to still go. But once we arrived in Vietnam, we felt like everything was pretty normal for the most part. We will say our first time ever in Da Nang, and so it was hard for us to have anything to compare it to in terms of how busy the streets were. It seemed like things were still pretty busy and still pretty open. Seemed pretty normal for you too?
I think business-wise, there wasn't that many businesses that were closed. It was unfortunately more businesses that didn't have the customers coming in. They weren't getting the business that they were planning on getting. So yeah, these businesses were open. They weren't getting any customers. We weren't traveling around with masks at the time. It didn't seem like that many of the local people were in masks either. We even kind of talked about how maybe 1 week into it, we just had a conversation. We're we were very glad that we did this trip, even though it's probably a little bit slower than what it's used to, but we're glad that we're here. So
the first full week that we were here was great. Everything was pretty normal, and then Monday hit, and I recorded a really small clip of us. All right. Seems like the coronavirus in Vietnam situation is not as good as it was earlier. There may be some cases that are pretty close to where we are. They've been 20 days in the clear, but then recently there was someone who took a flight from Italy to Vietnam, and then from there, the people who were on her plane her driver, her aunt, all were sick. So it's definitely starting to spread a little bit. So we know that wearing masks doesn't make any difference in terms of keeping us safe, but it's more of the perception.
It'll make the people around us more comfortable. Just the news outlets that they receive their stuff says that they think that the masks kind of give you security. So it's just for them, just kind of being more comfortable around us.
And then also, like, these masks were given to me by my mom, who already had them on hand. But otherwise, I mean, I think it's more so like we're not going to go out of our way and go buy masks. We know that medical workers and healthcare professionals need these masks too. But these were given to us, so off we go. It's gonna be real. We're gonna have some sweaty faces. That was the first morning that we woke up and we're like, okay, shit's gonna hit the fan in a sense. So we kind of need to be a little bit more cautious and wear our masks.
Yeah, they keep us from touching our face.
Yes, that's true. So since the news broke that there's been another, would you consider it? It's an outbreak.
Yeah, because they had no cases for like 25 some days. It almost seemed like just one kind of case really went and changed the course of all of it, or just like one weekend really changed the course of it all.
Yeah, but Vietnam, I would say, has been doing a good job at trying to keep it contained, and they've been very diligent about letting people know, okay, X amount of people are now infected and confirmed. Here are the X amount of places they've visited over the last however many days. Even in the elevator of our hostel, they have a sign that says, like, here's the places they visited, here are the dates, and then they say like, if you visited these places, please let us know. And the government forces the businesses to close down for at least 14 days just to ensure that they can disinfect everything. Some of the places, even I think their staff are even being quarantined inside the restaurants, which is crazy, but it seems like most of them are, or at least one of them is making the most of the situation. I think the brewery is like, I think their employees are being quarantined inside and they're just like drinking beer and karaoke and eating pizza.
Eating hot dogs, eating all the food supplies.
Eating all the food supply. They're having a great time. They've been posting on Facebook, so we've been seeing that. It's sad for the businesses, but it's a good way to try to keep everything contained in terms of making sure that people don't go into that restaurant and then get sick and then go and spread it elsewhere. So since this has happened as well, things back in the US exploded very quickly and things are changing very rapidly. A lot of folks who are social distancing, and I know a lot of folks are working from home, and just trying to stay away from a group gathering. Obviously we're traveling, but we've been trying to do our best to socially distance ourselves from big groups as well. I mean, we took a train yesterday, which was something we had to do, but we were trying our best to not touch anything, like not interact with anybody, wear a mask the entire time, just really keep to ourselves. And even we're really limiting on how much we're even leaving the hotel. We've been spending a lot of time at the hotel, just kind of chilling and trying to enjoy the views and enjoy the food while we can, because we can get the food delivered here, which is really nice as well. Another thing that's impacted and changed quite a bit is we have some friends that are scheduled to come visit us in Vietnam on Thursday and Friday, and that's kind of up in the air right now. The plan was for them to meet us in Saigon. We asked them to switch it to meet us in Da Nang, and then they were making the effort to switch it, and then the outbreaks happened, and then we were like, okay, let's go to Saigon now instead, because
it's more north.
Yeah, it's more. There's gonna be more nightlife and everything there too. It'll be a little bit more lively. So then they were making the plans to make the switch again, and then suddenly the government announced that they were closing any bars, any beer clubs, any clubs, they're basically closing everything down just to try to help contain it.
And another thing too is, like, not only are they shutting down like the bars and then the karaoke and the clubs, but they're also closing down all of the big attractions and sites. Like Halong Bay is closed, parts of Hoi An, they're shutting down the Imperial City. So all these places that tourists and travelers will want to go to, they're shutting down to eliminate people wanting to go there. It's like going to be a huge hit on the economy here, but it's just the steps that they believe is necessary to stop the growth of the virus.
So we were like, there's not really going to be a whole lot for us to do.
We can still eat,
which is great.
We can still hang out together,
which is great. But then it just became, a big question on whether or not it would be worth it for them to come all the way over. So we're still trying to figure that out right now. They are all currently in Singapore, so we did talk about possibly just going to Singapore and meeting them there, just because we really do want to see them.
Shit. It's crazy. All right, well. It's crazy. Yeah.
If you guys want to come to Singapore, feel free.
Yeah, you guys come to Singapore.
Might be the best option, honestly.
Yeah. Stay in our apartment.
But we found out that if we go to Singapore, then we would have to quarantine for 14 days in Singapore, and it's like, there's just, there's nowhere safe right now. Obviously, we are still getting calls from our families just to make sure that A, we're okay, and B, see what the update is in terms of what we want to do. We definitely are talking about cutting our trip short, which is a huge bummer, but it just kind of seems like the right thing to do. At the moment, I don't think it personally makes sense for us to go and get on an airplane and go to an airport, just because it's straight up pandemonium right now at airports with incoming international flights. I can pop in pictures of what the Chicago airport looked like yesterday, and it just seemed like if you're trying to avoid getting coronavirus and possibly getting sick, being in an airport for 8 hours trying to get through an immigration line is like, yeah, it doesn't seem like the safest option at this point.
Our original plan was to stay in Vietnam for 30 days. That's how long our visa goes for. And then we are going to go through Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and then come back around and apply for another e-visa. We don't know with the situation what it's going to be like, if we can actually do that stuff. It's just kind of taking like a risk assessment.
There's a chance of us trying to apply for a visa again back in Vietnam and having that get denied, and then it ends up becoming a big mess. So we're just trying to reassess everything and take everything day by day. We're not booking out our hotels for like multiple days at a time. We're really trying to do it for like 1 to 2 days at a time and just adding to our reservation if we need to. But I think our plan for now is just to kind of try to stay low and just order food in and just kind of relax. You know, we're doing what we can to research as much as possible. Brian, as I mentioned, has been on his phone like every 5 minutes just trying to read the updates and just see what we need to do, because things change so quickly. So we're just trying to take it day by day and see what it is that we need to do. And you know, I think yesterday was the first time that we said, like, do we just need to go home in a couple weeks and then just reassess and maybe try to plan for this trip next year, which would be a bummer, just because you know, we've been really looking forward to this trip and have done so much planning for it. But obviously, it's like we can't control how this virus spreads. It's kind of hard for me, at least, to be here and be doing all these things when it's like so terrible back home too. Like that's really hard. It kind of feels like weirdly selfish to be posting about how great of a vacation we're having when everyone back home is like really struggling, and it doesn't seem socially like responsible to be going out and doing all these things when people are also like recommending that we need to be distancing ourselves from people as well.
And like, should we be saving the money that we had budgeted for this trip and just kind of keeping it in our savings, and just to make sure that if anything happens, at least we'll have that money that we could be spending towards whatever while we're in the United States. So
Yep. That's the update.
Probably end this video before Jenny starts crying.
I can't cry 2 videos in a row. Oh, okay. We're gonna be good.
Yeah, we got 2 more weeks until our visa runs out. We'll figure it out, or might just hunker down until then. But like, don't feel too bad for us, because their Postmates or Now services, I feel like it's way better than.
We had fried chicken delivered yesterday, so it's okay.
It was $5.
Yeah. We appreciate everyone following along and being so encouraging. I can't be crying in every video.
Shouldn't be touching your face.
I clean hands. I've been touching my face a lot, but I can't help it. Don't feel bad for us. It's okay. We still have had an amazing 2 weeks and stuff, but I think I'm just more sad for the businesses that might not be able to come back from it.
Yeah, both here and over in the United States, and just all around the world.
Okay, we should probably end it.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.